everyone, Jessica here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. In this video, I'm showing you how I mix alcohol inks with Distress Oxide inks. So late one night, when you get your best ideas, I thought, why not mix the two together? What would happen? If anything, it would look terrible and I wouldn't use the footage. I wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be any harmful odors from mixing the two. I wasn't sure. I contacted Ranger and they did not know either. They've never mixed the two together. I further researched and discovered that many people do mix acrylic paint with alcohol inks, so I'm feeling it is okay. Just be aware of fumes, turn on a fan, open a window, protect yourself, but I didn't notice anything stronger fume-wise than the rubbing alcohol that I use with the alcohol inks anyways. Okay, enough of the warnings. What I've done so far is laid down some oxide inks across the paper in several colors. I'll have the list of everything I use in the description box below. I then added blending solution to it. It blends out the oxide inks nicely, and I'm using a paintbrush that I have designated for this type of project to help further spread out the oxide inks using rubbing alcohol. Then I add a few colors of alcohol ink. I'm creating some splatters over the entire piece by dipping the paintbrush into rubbing alcohol. And then I'm just tapping it over the paper. This is going to help blend all the colors together and thin out some of the thicker areas. I tried this several times and the best way I could find was first use glossy cardstock. I'm using the Ranger brand. Yupo paper does not work. The oxide ink has nothing to sink into and will not dry. It's a big old mess, trust me. And of course, use as little as product as possible. You want to keep a thin layer of medium down. So you might be asking yourself, why should I mix the two together? What would this do for me? And honestly, the only reason I'm doing it is because I had the idea and I wanted to experiment with it, and I thought it would make for an interesting video. Mixing the two together does create a very interesting background. It's a little different than just an alcohol ink background or a blended oxide ink background. With this one, that glossy cardstock and the alcohol inks still glisten and shine on the paper, but then you get a little bit of that oxide ink mixture into it, and it has a very matte effect, so you get the two different textures there, and it's quite interesting actually. But I did let this dry overnight. That's a must. It does take a while to dry. And when you spray oxide inks with water, it creates that oxide effect, and it kind of has a whitish chalky outcome. This is what I'm rubbing away. So what I'm using is 2 stamps from the Crazy Things set and creating a cluster on 1/2 of a piece of cardstock of balloons. I'm using the VersaFine ink because that is what I had on my desk. This would have been really neat to do as a watercolor if I had used watercolor paper. But I was thinking at the time to keep the balloons white because there is so much color already on the inked piece. I'm not masking the balloons but letting them overlap. I was thinking it looked like balloons they drop on people to celebrate for celebrations. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about, like a balloon drop. I don't know how to explain it. Hopefully you know. Okay, I cut out the balloons by following the top edge of them, and I'm going to fill in the gaps between the balloons. There are small gaps between them with a black pen just to give it more depth, I guess. And I'll attach that to the bottom portion. It looks like the upper portion when I do it, but the bottom portion of the ink piece that we did earlier. I stamped the happy birthday sentiment onto a banner that I die cut, and I'm using fossilized amber dye ink to color the paper so it matches with the rest of the card. I cut that in half actually because I wanted it to be like it got torn apart after the party. And I stamped a belated word onto a blue piece of cardstock. I think it's a shimmer cardstock from Paper Tray Ink, actually. It looks pretty cool with all those white balloons and then all that color on top. It's a very interesting card. My blog link is in the description below where I post picture links to all the supplies used. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hey, even if you weren't curious about combining Distress Oxides with alcohol inks, I hope you had some fun anyways. Thumbs up this video if you did. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Meh, meh.